So my name is Melanie Chrislock. I am the Communications Director for Public Water Now. I'm going to share the presentation tonight with our Director, George Riley. So I'm going to start. First slide, Phil. So Measure J is brought to you by Public Water Now. And we think everybody in town knows that. Cal-Am managed to convince the judge that this could be in question. So anyway, so we had to put stickers on all our yard signs. So thanks so much for coming tonight. And if you would hold your questions till the end, we'll leave lots of time to answer them. And if you aren't on our mailing list for future developments, you might want to sign back there, and you'll just get an email if there's an event or a big development, which there might be soon. So Public Water Now is a local educational nonprofit with 3,500 supporters. We have spent the last 5, 6 years doing public forums. We've done 50 in the last 4 years, trying to educate our community on what our water issues are. Because most of us really don't pay attention to this day to day. So a few of us did, for all the rest of you. So we put Measure O on the ballot 4 years ago, and we lost by only 6 points. So we're feeling good so far. We think this is doable. So we want to go through some of Cal-Am's claims. So somebody just told me that they counted, they've got 25 Cal-Am flyers. And it's like a week. Right.
One a day.
So one of their big claims is the government takeover, which is nonsense. It's a public buyout at a fair market value. But it's Cal-Am speak is government takeover. And they keep telling people that if Measure J passes, they have no choice. And you know, I keep looking at my water bill when I get it and go, I don't really have a choice paying this water bill. I can't say anything about this $600 water bill that I just got. I have to pay it, you know, so yeah, no choice, right. And go to the next slide, Phil, because I want to go to this no government takeover led to a lower cost water system in the last 20 years in California. That's because there's only been 5 buyouts in California in 20 years. Because 83% of California's water is already publicly owned. So there's no real room for a lot of public buyouts. All the big systems, all the big cities, all publicly owned. And this is not a government operation like Washington, D.C. or the DMV. This is more like your school system. It's a district. It has an elected board of representatives, and one of those who's running for this area is here with us tonight, Alvin Edwards, and we'll bring him up in a while. So you have a voice. You have control over this. You have a say in what goes on at this water district, whereas you have none with Cal-Am. Oh, wait, go back. There was something on that slide that I was... So the Water Management District has said that what they will do after Measure J passes is they will hold hearings, public hearings, to hear what all of you think is feasible. I mean, I always thought feasible was a pretty obvious word. Financially feasible? Yeah, if I've got $5,000 to buy a car, I'm not going to look for a $10,000 car. It's not financially feasible. But they are willing to spend the time to engage the community so that they feel certain as to what the criteria is to move forward with this feasibility study. So that will happen shortly after Measure J passes. And the Ojai lowered their costs very dramatically in their public buyout. They're the most recent of the buyouts we're familiar with. And they were able to not only pay the cost of the bond, repair their system, they also were able to lower their water rates. So we're hoping that that's the scenario for us, but we won't know until we do a feasibility study and the final price is negotiated with Cal-Am. Cal-Am, right, worth $1.04 billion. So what I want to talk about is who appraised it, MR Evaluations. But that's on the next slide, so keep going. Go on. So Missoula, who was recently here, some of you might have been at their presentation, Carlisle had MR Valuations appraised Missoula's system, and MR Valuations said it was worth $200 million. But in the end, the court said, no way, it's worth $88 million. Less than half of what MR Valuations claimed it was worth. So that gives you an idea of the game that's being played here. There's companies out there that will value anything you want at any price you want. And they've done that for Callahan. So these high valuations, the $1 billion, everywhere that we've looked at different public water buyouts, it's the same pattern. They start at very high cost. Felton, they started at $46 million, but ended up selling for 13, a third of what they start at. In Ojai, they started at $120 million, sold for $34 million. These are not Ojai, and Ojai was Golden State, but it's the same pattern. Big Water uses the same plan to defeat public buyouts. They start with a scary high valuation. You could never afford this. So that people just go, oh, it's going to raise our water bills. So the way they're saying it's going to raise the water bills is to take the $1 billion and work backward from there. So the $1 billion is where the lie starts, actually. Okay, next slide. I think this is George. You want to take? I think you're taking it from there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
George Riley.
I'm also running for office. So we're not supposed to talk candidates, but you know, secretly, Alvin Edwards and I are on the same page on public water. So Callahan does not want you to know a lot of things because they're trying to distract you from the facts. And the facts are they have a history on this peninsula. And most of you know that history. And the reason they don't talk about their history is they can't possibly be proud of it. And what are they proud of? Well, they got muscle, they got political influence, they got money. And that's what they're using. We're facing an onslaught of powerful corporate interests trying to dictate their agenda on our community. And what we're trying to convince people of and want the voters to have an opportunity to say a simple thing. We want the opportunity to consider a public buyout. Period. That's all we want. There's no guarantee beyond that. But there is a guarantee that we'll get an evaluation. We'll get a feasibility study. We will get facts. Callahan doesn't deal in facts. They're damn liars. And you should know that from just reading the damn material they put out. And they can't even be consistent in their own material either, because they're so busy telling so many damn stories. You know, when you can't keep it straight, you know they're not telling the truth. So let's go to the next.
Don't forget, most expensive water, Jordan.
We have the most expensive water in the United States. Okay, and if nothing else should drive you to the polls, that should do it. Regardless of what we say. You have an opportunity to create change. You have an opportunity to make a statement. That's it. That's it. And if that doesn't drive you to the polls, what the hell will? Okay? You're all smarter than that.
All right.
So the facts on the most expensive water in the United States came from a study from a national organization, which is a monitoring educational organization, national, and they established some baselines and they surveyed 500 of the largest water providers in the United States, and they came up with this comparison, and lo and behold, we're the most expensive water in the United States. Who in the hell's proud of that? Okay, so we'll go on.
Not Callahan.
So what we have here is national average. This is corporate. This is public. Less. That's all we're saying. Less. We don't know how much less, we don't know the details. If we can get the facts, we can kind of get to this point. So that's national. California, same thing. The disparity is a little different, but still, private's more expensive than public water. And then our numbers in California, on the Monterey Peninsula. Cal-Am doesn't want to talk about this. Of course we do. Okay, so they want you to forget that they're the highest cost water in the United States. The other thing they want you to forget. Cal-Am has had a series of failures, or kind of bait and switch. But however it is, they're not proud of this history either. And they don't want to talk about it either. We all know that because we conserve, and Cal-Am said conserve, they spent our money telling us to conserve. We conserve. The state also is doing the same thing. Conserve, conserve, conserve. We conserve like crazy. For over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, we've been conserving like crazy. But Cal-Am then didn't tell you that they had a back door to get their money. They went back to the PUC and said, well, you know, you told us we were going to collect this much, we only collect this much, but since you told us we could collect this much, then we have a right to collect that much, and you have an obligation to tell us that we can charge ratepayers for it. And that's what they did, and the PUC approved, and that's why your bill is going sky high. Because of water they didn't deliver, you didn't ask for, they didn't produce, you didn't get.
We didn't use.
And Cal-Am got the money. We are a cash cow for Cal-Am. Just don't forget that. We are a cash cow for Cal-Am, and that's what it's all about. They've had 3 failed water projects that they initiated because the state said, get off the river, get a new water supply. The state told Cal-Am to do this. They didn't tell the water district, they didn't tell the mayor, they didn't tell anybody else. They told Cal-Am, get off the river, get off the Carmel River, quit killing the river, develop a new water supply. So they went down 3 tracks, failed every time. They wanted a new dam on the Carmel River, they wanted a new desal at Moss Landing, and they wanted this regional project in Marina with a big partnership. All 3 failed because Cal-Am pulled the plug on all 3 of them. Cal-Am pulled the plug on all 3 of them. And then they go to the PUC and said, well, we invested all this money in good faith, and we were obviously trying to meet the demand for water supply, and it just didn't happen. But we had a good faith effort, therefore we should recover all the money. We paid $34 million for those 3 projects. Now the stakeholders, I mean the shareholders of Cal-Am, it's a corporation, they're on the New York Stock Exchange. The shareholders, how much do you think they paid as a result of the same event? Risk capital in the corporate world of the New York Stock Exchange, where investors do invest expecting some return on the thing, but also it's risk capital. It's risk capital. It's risk investment. How much money do you think they paid, shareholders? Well, Bruno, what do you think they paid?
They recovered it from ratepayers.
That's right. They recovered every dime from ratepayers. I call on Paul because he and I sometimes call on each other.
Well, you didn't call me on the first one about the 64 million. Isn't it true that pretty much every water agency throughout the state did the same thing because they have a certain cost to provide?
Absolutely
not.
not.
A lot did.
No,
a lot did.
Absolutely not. Every water company had, every water agency had a problem with lower demand because of conservation. All the public agencies had no opportunity to go backwards and collect money that they didn't deliver. They had to go forward and say, how are we going to deal with this problem? They had public hearings, they had new rate reviews, they had new issues they had to deal with, but they dealt with it going forward, not going backwards. Cal-Am went backwards.
It's the same.
That's enough. I'm sorry.
It's the
That's
same.
enough.
They're charging future customers for the lost revenue.
Cal-Am on their website.
Exact same thing.
On Cal-Am's website, they talk about the San Clemente Dam. They took it down. On the website, they said it cost $49 million. Well, if you do the math, and you go back to the PUC decision on them recovering their cost of the water, of the cost of the taking down the Cal-Am to the San Clemente Dam, it's $152 million. We don't tell you the truth. You overdrafted the Carmel River, we know.
Wait for you.
Well, that's very good. We can sue them, get the 152 minus 49.
We're not suing them.
No.
We're busy defending ourselves to Cal-Am. We're not initiating lawsuits. Okay, so that's just their cost of failures of projects. Now, what have they done to the environment? What have they done to the resources that they have access to? Just look at it. They overdrafted Carmel River. They have had access to it from the very beginning. They loaned the system since 1966. They overdrafted Carmel River. That was their primary water source. They moved from the Carmel River to the Seaside Basin, and what did they do? They overdrafted the Seaside Basin. This resulted in the state intervening, saying, get off the river. This resulted in a local court saying, quit ruining the Seaside Basin. So now, well, they've had no new projects since then, but now, most recently, I don't know what the next slide says, but let's go there. Okay, yeah, so the next slide is, their desal plan is to go to, now I'm just making this up, I mean, I don't make this up, I make the sequence. From Carmel River, overdraft, go to Seaside Basin, overdraft, now they're going north, Marina. Take their water. Why not? It's available, we think we can get it. They're not stewards of the environment, they're not stewards of their own budget, they're not careful about what ratepayers have to pay. All we're asking for is a vote to say, let's look at the option. We should have the option. Flawed desal is in big trouble, big trouble. They have no water rights in the area they're in. They are taking Marina's groundwater, which is very similar to what we've already seen. Groundwater from Carmel River, Seaside Basin, going north. They're going to double with Callahan's project if they do. And we do support the desal project, but we don't support Callahan's project. Partly because it starts with a very high number and it keeps going higher and higher, and we're just getting screwed by Callahan. And we are their cash cow. Don't forget that at all. They're fighting like crazy to keep this thing going for them. And that's why you're getting all the flyers.
Lawsuits.
And the lawsuits. I think that's next.
No, it's not.
No, Marina.
Marina.
Marina has, the water district there has filed a lawsuit to challenge the decision, the PUC decision to do this. The city of Marina has done that. And PUC just today filed a response to that. So this is going to involve some litigation somehow or other. We don't know where that's going to go. But the point is, we already have the highest water bills in the United States. Callahan has mismanaged the resources that we have. They really misinterpreted what they think they can get away with on our community, on our peninsula. Their skyrocketing costs are just atrocious, absolutely atrocious. And I hope you'll vote yes, because we deserve better. We deserve better. And all we're asking for is give us the option to look at public water. That's what that's what elections are all about. And I don't know, is that my slide or yours?
No, that's yours.
Okay. Most of the population of the United States already have public running water. They have the benefit of water without profit. We are looking at trying to get the opportunity to take profit out of our water. We eliminate the profit. We eliminate the incentives for profit. The major profit driver for corporations are infrastructure projects, huge pipelines, dams, desal projects. We want local control. We think the voters aren't stupid. But they prefer, Callahan prefers to have the PUC make all their decisions for them. PUC sits in San Francisco. You have a hard time getting through to them. They don't listen to you unless you follow a certain procedure. They don't live here. They don't know about us. They don't know you. They don't know us. They don't know me. They might know me.
Troublemaker.
But it's not local control, guys. This is absentee landlord control. That's what it is. And we think we can do better on watershed management. We can do better on just the general community engagement and about the decisions. And we can have a system that supports the community, not drains the community. Because not only are they mining the water, they're mining our money. So much of the money they take is just exported too. So all it does is require.
Oh, yeah.
It requires melody.
First we'll be back. We're going back and forth on this. So what does Measure J really do? I mean, by now, Callahan is made it so confusing for a lot of voters. It requires the Monterey Water Management District to pursue a buyout of CalAm if it's financially feasible and in the public interest. That is what Measure J does. A yes vote does that. If there's no second vote, this is it. If you want publicly owned water, this is your vote. And it's the safeguard is the feasibility study. They have to do this within 9 months. If it's found to be really worth $1 billion, like CalAm claims, it all stops right there. No buyout. That's not financially feasible. There is no blank check. The Water Management District has no authority to buy CalAm at a prohibitive cost. All of this is just nonsense made up by CalAm to frighten voters. Oh, what I want to say about this, a yes vote is what's going to get you the option of public water. So CalAm has been going door to door lately, and we have just discovered something really strange. They have now hired people to go around and tell people that a no vote will get them publicly owned water. So be careful. They are in the gutter now. This is really dirty pool. So they're trying to, in Seaside and in PG, we've heard the story twice, so it's not just one guy that's made a mistake. This is intentional. And I don't know what we're going to do about it, but we'll try to find out what the source of it is. So the Water Management District. How many people know that much about the Water Management District? A few, okay. They've been really low profile for a long time. But they've done some great things in the last 10 years, especially. So they're made up of a board of 7 directors, and 5 of them are elected different divisions. That's George is running for Division 2, and Alvin is running for Division 1. So these are the people that now moving forward you will go to and say, this is my issue about our water, I don't want these rate increases. You know, in a publicly owned system, the voters can vote down a rate increase. What a concept! We cannot do that with CalAm. There's no way. You have no say, no choice, no vote.
Excuse me, how do you vote down the rate increase?
A public water system,
There'll be
we can't-
questions later, Paul.
we can't.
Stop
Yeah.
it. Just sit there.
So,
Yeah.
Thanks, Dan.
they were created in 1978 after the drought, and they have the authority to own and operate water systems. They were tasked with finding new water supply. One of their big reasons for existence, because after the drought, they needed more water, they realized we were in a precarious situation. So over the last 22 years, they've developed 5 new water projects. As of next year, when public Pure Water Monterey goes online, it will be a total of over 7,000 acre feet. And we only use 9,900 acre feet on the whole Monterey Peninsula. So this is a huge amount of contribution to our water supply done by a public government agency who is answerable to us and doesn't make a profit on doing this, does it in the public interest, and has done a good job. So CalAm, 52 years of ownership, not a drop of new water. Lots of promises, desal on the horizon 4 years ago, still on the horizon. So I guess it was a mirage. One more.
No new water supply?
I
52 years?
just said that.
Oh, you
You were listening. Okay, so the process, they'll hold, as I said, right after Measure J passes, they'll hold public hearings on what is feasible. Then they will hire consultants, outside consultants in different fields to put this feasibility study together. Then they will hold public hearings on the results of the feasibility study. I mean, they are into like public input. They're a public agency. They have people that we vote in. So they want to know. They don't want to do this. They're not going to do some renegade action here. They're our community, you know, and they know it. So if it's feasible, then MDWMD will begin negotiations with CalAmp, which probably won't go very far since CalAmp says they're not for sale. And if that fails, then it goes to eminent domain. So that's the process after Measure J passes.
Eminent domain is,
Eminent domain is where a court decides, both parties bring in their appraisals and their reasons why this should happen or not happen. And a court decides what's going to happen. Is this in the public interest? And they will decide on the price,
Fair market value.
fair market value. So it's not up to CalAmp what it's worth. It will be up to a court. So one big piece of the picture that CalAmp never talks about, and this is key to the whole process, is that you buy CalAmp with their profits. We've done studies on the available public figures, and we know that their profit picture looks like about 25% of $60 million a year. In 2016, those were the numbers they reported to the PUC. You know, I think that's George's slide. I'm going to let him do the more.
no, that is your slide.
No, the
George.
next one, the next one.
Okay,
Keep going.
right.
So buying them with the profit is the real key here, that they are not talking about.
We take the data that's available to us, we don't make anything up. So when we document their failures in projects that they attempted and failed on, we have documentation on the millions of dollars that we have to pay. We have documentation on the resources that they wasted or ruined or exhausted before they move up to another resource. It's all documented. So here's another documentation. We know from CalAmp's report, this is 2016, PUC, California Public Utilities Commission. We roll through that all the time, but maybe some people don't really connect it the way we do. But that's the Public Utilities Commission. That's the overseer of CalAmp. They're the overseer of corporate utilities. Their job is to guarantee that corporate utilities don't fail. Their job is to make sure that there's a profit component to their budget, that there's an investment aspect to their finances, and that their bottom line is not red. PUC, Public Utilities Commission, guarantees that corporate utilities, energy, telecommunications, water, have those three components protected by them, by the PUC. If we get rid of CalAmp, we get rid of the PUC. They're like this, and they both go at the same time. So, CalAmp has to file reports with the PUC. CalAmp, we looked at their 2016 report, which told us that they made $60 million in revenue in 2016. CalAmp's numbers, CalAmp put these numbers together, we didn't, and they filed them with the PUC, and we said, show us the financial reports. That's what we got. So then they, I'm going to go over here. So they have documentation for all the blue, which is local operations. That's what it costs for this, the people that are making the repairs and doing the, whatever. This local operations and local staff. They may have 90 to 100 people in their staff. But that's all the costs, chemicals, trucks, insurance, rents, everything's local. They also, this is documented in their report to the PUC. This is documented also, which is non-local operations, but it serves a local issue. It's call center, it's billing, it's laboratory work, but this is done off-site. But this and this go together as running the business. We're saying we're not trying to evaluate whether this is efficient or well done or what or not. We just take their numbers and show it. This is documented. This is documented. This is documented. Corporate taxes. It's listed exactly where they pay. State taxes, federal taxes. It's on their financial report. So we documented all this, and then the accounting stops. We know this. We know it started with 60 million. We know this and this and this is documented in the reports. We subtract expenses from revenues. We call it profit, or it's a revenue over expenses. I don't know what you'd call it. CalAmp doesn't like the fact that we call it profit because they say we don't make that kind of profit. Well, They took it out of our community, they took it home, they took it to New Jersey or wherever they took it, it left our community. And the other piece of this is, that leaves the community, that leaves the community, that leaves the community. So $60 million of a business that they have locally, about 45 cents of every dollar leaves. With local ownership, the money stays local. These services, let me back up just one more. These services could be local services, not done in Illinois or Florida or San Diego. This is jobs. And then this component is not required in a public agency. That's excess money in your bill. You pay this. You pay this. Now let's just shift the paradigm for just a second and say you're renting a house. And this is what you're paying for rent. And you would like to buy. So what do? Well, you look around, do a feasibility study, kind of. Can I afford this? Do I want this? Where is it? What is it? What is it? How much? Or whatever. Can I afford it? Whatever. You do a little feasibility study before you go to buy a house. It's a pretty significant investment. So is buying a water company. It's a significant investment. But you do a process of figuring out what you're going to do. So if you're paying this in rent and you're going to buy, you don't pay rent and the bond or the mortgage. You don't pay both. You stop paying the rent and start paying that same money on the mortgage. That's what we're proposing that the feasibility study look at. That's what we're asking. Can this kind of money, which is collected in our bills right now, be diverted to purchase or kind of earmarked to buy Cal-Am? $19 billion a year. If Cal-Am wants to say they're worth $1 billion, you know, it's entirely possible this could afford $1 billion, but I'm not going to say that because they're lying through their teeth when they say they're worth $1 billion. They've got a flyer out now that's saying $1 billion. They're using it all over the place. It's the most flimsiest description of cost to add up to $1 billion as you can imagine. It's all on the come. If we have a desal, if we have the completed project I forget the phrase they're using, water rates, if they have water rates, it's a value. Those are all on the come. They put that into the $1 billion. Those things are not proven. So all we're asking is, can this kind of money, call it rent money, can that be used to buy Cal-Am? What are the real numbers that real professionals would look at this stuff? We're just looking at Cal-Am's numbers. And we know there are different accounting systems that are used in different places. We know that. But that's all we're asking. Can this be used to buy? It's stop paying rent and start paying a mortgage. What does that look like? That's what we want to know. So we have a choice. Community-owned water, corporate-owned water. We just think it's pretty obvious. Cal-Am's desperate effort. I mean, you have to see. You just have to accept. If we have the most expensive water in the United States, don't you think Cal-Am loves that? Don't you think American Water loves that? Sure. And if you just ask the people around, why would we love it? We don't. Just looking for an option, that's all. We're going to have high water bills. That's a foregone conclusion. But our water system has been in private hands from the very beginning. When the first dam was built to serve Del Monte Hotel, 100 years of water for profit. It's all we've had in this community. Water for profit. Let's not stay with that. Next. So we had a lot of endorsements. If those of you who remember 4 years ago, we had a hard time getting people to endorse our effort. We struggled, we asked, we pitched, we talked, we met. And we just weren't getting very many. And most everybody was against us. Not necessarily these people specifically, because then it was a different time. But this is different. This is different. They know we have the most expensive water in the country. They know Cal-Am has failed over the years. They know Cal-Am is gaming the system, gaming the PUC, gaming the Public Utilities Commission. And we just had some terrific endorsers from here, and our list goes on and on. And Mary Adams is not on this list. She recently endorsed Mary Adams, which is really good. There was a, I just want to read some.
The weekly's not on there either.
And the weekly has endorsements, that's right. There's a guy who writes a blog on environmental issues and water issues and a lot of other things. Keith Van Der Veer is his name. Some of you may know him, some of you may not. But he recently, he just posted today of calling the Cal-Am relationship with the Monterey Peninsula is like an abusive boyfriend. It's kind of in the Me Too mode, you know? He says, oddly, the intensity of Cal-Am's opposition may be the best reason to believe a public buyout is feasible. The intensity of their opposition. He says the blizzard of delirious anti-Measure J flyers and from Cal-Am's political consultants are currently fire hosing into our mailboxes, and it is something to amaze. It's as much a show of force as it is an effort to persuade. It's a show of force. That's what it really is. It's a show of force. So exactly what is the message Cal-Am is spending so much money to promote? This is his version of it. You know, I just think it's beautiful. Of course, I would agree, but I think so. Sifting through the pile, we find glowing descriptions of Cal-Am's love for the Monterey Peninsula and the commitment to its prosperity. Side by side with deranged threats to go out of their way to financially destroy this same beloved community should its voters not do what Cal-Am tells them to do. It goes on. The more you read, the clearer and more familiar the message becomes. It's something along the lines of this. We love you more than anyone else ever will and want to stay with you forever. This is a boyfriend, you know, who's a boyfriend? Okay, go back. We love you more than anyone else ever will and want to stay with you forever. But if you even think about breaking up with us, we'll bankrupt you and grind you into the dirt. And it will be all your fault for making us do it. So I don't know where we are. We're in a David versus Goliath. We all know that. We just lost a lawsuit to Cal-Am the other day. They made 8 complaints about us. We went to court. The judge agreed on one of them on a legal issue. And it was a technical detail thing. We lost. They're going to highlight. They're going to play it around. They're going to take a victory lap on having beat us in court and so on.
Well, they did. They did last night in the news.
Oh,
You
did they?
saw the story.
Yeah.
And the whole gist of this has to do with the tiny little disclaimer on the bottom of our yard signs that we overlooked putting it on there. It should have said paid for by Public Water Now. Yes, on Measure J. So we didn't put it on there. Cal-Am got us on a technicality, and now they're trying to pretend that we've really done something to deceive the public.
And you can't tell who's behind it.
Right.
So even the judge asked Cal-Am attorney, you mean it's not clear that Public Water Now is paying for yes on J? They're saying that's not our argument. But are you saying there's confusion about this? That's not our argument.
Yeah.
So what is your argument? The law requires that you have a thing at the bottom of in this kind of size so that you can see it when you're driving down the road 20 miles an hour. Paid for by. That was their entire argument. Paid for by. 3 words. As if it's confusing. That was their argument. And the judge bought it. And the judge bought it.
That's all they got.
She didn't have a choice. They had her on the technicality of the law.
It's technicality.
She didn't want to.
Does everybody sign something?
George, didn't our judge also say that,
Let me go over here first.
I understand they felt that it was, that we were not giving them a level playing field. I think they felt that maybe their millions of dollars was not tilting the field already. against our 100,000.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
far, 1.87 million in the last 2 months to stop Measure J.
George, didn't the judge also say it was you were misleading the voters by calling it a cost savings initiative?
That was months ago.
Oh, but
Different topic.
Yeah, they took us to court twice. Was that twice? Oh, this is twice.
What, that was the name of the ballot measure.
I have to disagree with about the second slide you had there. You said something about the most expensive water in the USA. I think it is the most expensive water in the world. Show me anywhere. Maybe if you go to the moon, the astronauts might have to pay more.
Okay, questions, so we're officially into
Okay.
questions.
I'm not questioning, I just wanted to say that for those of you who took the strip to stick on the bottom, it does not have to go on signs on private property, so don't waste them on signs in your yard.
Well, we
They
have
don't-
plenty if you want to.
Well, we don't,
We
because,
do, there's 300.
We will tomorrow.
anyway, where they need to go is when they're not in somebody's yard.
On public property,
Public.
we're responsible for the signs on public property. By Friday, we're supposed to have those strips on all the signs on public property. So if you know where any are.
But on TV, it also says any sign that's up that says this has to have that on, whether it be on private or.
They're wrong.
It's
gotta follow the law.
I know they're wrong, but what I'm saying is, I don't want them out there pulling them off, they're already pulling them off the highway. I mean, we live Carmel, so they're already pulling off Carmel.
That's the sheriff.
So, I don't know. Somebody, stronger, throw them in the weeds, super strong.
As of
I don't
when,
want that
yes,
sign on my property and say,
No, they're illegal.
Kellyanne, Kellyanne, we want to get to your question in just a second. Let's just wrap this up a little bit. The judge said we need to put stickers on signs that are in public places.
on public property.
We can't be
Public property.
expected to go on people's private property and stick things on.
We can't go on people's private property.
But we were told
They
to
would.
inform people that if signs are on private property do not have this sign, this
Sticker.
you are in technical violation.
And you can either put a sticker on or voluntarily remove your sign.
Or
Voluntarily
do
is the
nothing.
big- Well, voluntarily.
What if you do nothing?
Do nothing.
That's the voluntary
Because
part.
there's no
Is
enforcement.
someone gonna come knock on your
No,
door and give you a...
no, it's your business. They can't do anything about it.
Can't you just put in their magic marker and put in paid for by?
Well, we have stickers.
Yeah.
We have stickers, so you can.
George, let's
Signs on private property, isn't that a freedom of speech issue?
Right.
yeah, that's why we can't go on private property, change it, and we can't order people to change it.
First Amendment right.
But the court told us we should inform people that it's in technical violation, and you have options.
Oh,
It's gonna be in the weekly, right?
It's in the weekly tomorrow.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
all right, so I think we all get that. Who paid for pure water monitoring? Who put those pipes in?
It's not in anybody's bill yet. But the financing was a combination of the public agencies and Calian.
Because I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but the commercials that CalDam has on television, when they say, do you want to buy a water system, what they're picturing is just the pure water monitoring, which is super misleading.
Pipeline,
Yeah, that's all they're picturing.
pipeline, that's not in your bill yet.
And that's not what we're buying.
We don't, well,
There would be.
it'll be considered an asset of some sort, and when you go
And
down
that's
the
that,
road.
but that's not the
purely
one,
owned by
that's not the one thing we're
That's not
buying.
that.
No, you're right.
It's not public water now.
Let me go in the back and come back, Paul.
I have a couple of questions. One is, of all the other communities that have already experienced and had successes with the public buyout, how does our area compare to them in terms of industry, population, size of the area, and water use in general?
Let's get the
How do we
facts.
compare?
We have done no research on that.
Well, most of them are about half. Missoula is about half the size, a little more than half the size that we are. They were successful and very happy about it. Ojai is maybe a fourth. Most of them are small systems. They're smaller than we are, and therefore it's a little difficult to compare because there's an economy of scale in a bigger system. So if anything, it may be better for us. But all this will be known in a feasibility study. We've done as much as we can to look at all the past buyouts in California and Missoula, Montana, and it all points to being very doable, and all the communities that have done it are incredibly happy that they've done it.
And that isn't true. That is not true.
Absolutely, it's true.
That is not true.
You don't-
Well, if they're not smaller.
He's shoving.
We have met with Missoula, Missoula, Montana, Felton, and Ojai. We have gone over all of their statistics. They've presented town halls and public forums with us. There's no doubt that those communities are very happy about what they have done. Go ahead.
What cities in Monterey County does this actually affect?
The peninsula cities, Seaside, all the way down to partway through the Highlands. Carmel Valley out to, I'm not sure where, not all the way out.
Well, about 6 states of
Not Marina.
What about
No,
Garapata?
not Marina.
What about Garapata? They own Garapata down there.
That'll be an issue of an asset question, but this does not affect your policy.
Okay.
Let me go to Paul.
You made a statement that you could vote down a rate increase. My experience of the Water Management District, when they had the Ordinance 152, which is the rate or the tax that would go on people's property taxes, we submitted over 10,000 postcards signed by property owners protesting that tax, which got ignored. Then we went out and obtained signatures to put it on the ballot, which the district ignored those and said, no, we invalidated the signatures and we're not going to put it on the ballot.
Paul, let me ask you something.
Yes.
In 2014, when we failed, the voters made a decision. Okay? Okay? Is that fair?
I'm asking a question.
No, I'm asking you the same. I'm asking you that question because I have a follow-up.
Vote down a rate increase. You haven't finished answering my question yet. Let me have my question first, then you can interrogate me. Okay, so you said that we can vote down a rate increase by the Water Management District. I'd like to know how, because the track record so far is that they've ignored the public on the one time where they had an opportunity to listen about a rate increase.
Elected directors out, that's simple.
The directors vote.
Do the same thing with city councils and mayors.
You specifically said you can vote down a rate increase.
You can.
How?
Other systems have done it. Felton did it.
How?
system.
I don't know exactly the details, but you can look in the record. Felton has actually gone back to their water management district and said, no, let's talk about this. This rate increase is too high. What is this for?
Did they
And they
vote
went
it
through a
down?
discussion. They went through a discussion of what it's for.
Felton negotiated with the San Lorenzo Water District. They said
The
it shouldn't be this
public
much. The only thing you can do is
voters.
vote. What we can do is we can vote the directors out. If directors of a public district do something with water policy, whether it's rates or anything else,
And that's
we
not gonna take
can
over the
vote
meeting.
them
That's
out.
absolutely different
Yes.
than what she said.
You're not going to take over the meeting.
That's
I'm
just
just trying to help inform people.
technicality.
I
Now,
thought this was
We
about
know what
informing
his
people
connection
tonight.
with Cal-Am
Just
is.
trying to help inform
He
people.
does
Oh,
this a lot.
we know you have major contracts with Cal-Am, and this is not good for you.
Yeah.
But that's not fair to keep
Actually,
this
I work
doing
for
this.
every water purveyor
Paul-
from King City to
Paul
Central
is
Valley.
part owner of Monterey
Okay, let's
Engineering.
move on.
Okay.
Paul is a part owner of Monterey Engineering. He gets his company gets a lot of money.
That's all right.
Cal-Am.
Let's just move on.
Thank you.
Could I ask
Val-
a question? Yes. Two questions. Could I ask two questions?
You have to speak louder.
All the advertisement that Cal-Am has been doing has been extremely negative. They want us to vote no out of fear. They don't tell us anything about their past record, their accomplishments, and how we benefit having the most expensive water in the nation. My question to you, or anybody that knows better, okay, is that the first question, are you aware of any benefit that Cal-Am provides now that our community will lose if it is able to take ownership of the water? That's the first question. You gentlemen, because you know so much about Cal-Am, could you answer that for me?
Okay, I can tell you that if my knowledge of working for Santa Clara Valley Water District working for Soquel Creek Water, working for Santa Cruz City Water, working for a lot of government-run water systems, that
Like
they are
85% of the-
less efficient than
85%
that
of
they are
the
less
pension?
efficient
That's not the,
that they are less efficient than
Okay.
the private
Okay,
companies.
so but what specifically?
If they were so inefficient, 87% of the country would not have publicly owned water, 83% of California would not
Let's hold the question. This is getting pretty exciting in here. Not a second question, let's go to other first-time questions. Please, Jason?
It's related. It's
Okay,
the same.
well, it's hard for me to question anything you put up here because it's very clear to me, but my question is kind of Seaside centric. A lot of us want to see some development happen out on the former Fort Ord. And as we know, Marina Coast is one of the 3 water suppliers for Seaside, more efficient than Cal-Am, like Seaside Muni is more efficient than Cal-Am, just to be clear. But why would Marina Coast give us a water supply assessment that says there is a sustainable water supply for the developments we want in the former Fort Ord when they know Cal-Am is basically cannibalizing their system, is sucking water up from their basin. So my question is, how is Marina Coast going to be affected by Cal-Am's the wells going into their basin?
We're not futurists, we haven't looked at every issue that's related to a feasibility study. We've looked at the numbers that we know and can understand. But I think the issue of feasibility, well, let me back up. The issue of Marina Coast and water and Fort Ord and north side of the north part of Seaside and all the development out there, that's a whole different issue. We're not engaged in that. We don't know how that's going to work out, but you know that Marina Coast and the city of Marina do not like Cal-Am's project because they both sued Cal-Am project just in the past 2 weeks. And so that's going to play out in some fashion, and we'll learn something in that process.
Cal-Am's claims are all lies and half-truths. This is difficult for people to believe because none of us know any individuals who lie all the time. One of them is something that Paul brought up, a half-truth, that a lot of public water agencies have not collected enough money as a result of its customers not using as much water as they thought. So a public agency thinks it's going to cost $41 million to pay the bills next year. They adjust their rates to their customers, so they'll collect $41 million. But people don't use as much water as was expected. They only collect $39 million. They're $2 million short. So what do they have to do? They have to charge an extra $2 million next year to make up for that. Cal-Am collects $60 million, only costs $41 million for it to run the system, but they collect, the PUC told them they could collect $60 million, but because people didn't use as much water, they only collected $55 million. So they go back to the PUC, they say, we're $5 million short, and the PUC gives them a supplemental increase that we have to pay the next year. That would never happen with a public agency. Also, public agencies...
I want to move forward.
Okay.
I have a question. One major day, when we pass it, we are doing a feasibility study. Where is the money coming from to do the feasibility study?
Good point. The Water Management District pays for this. It's basically, we don't pay anything. It's out of their reserve fund.
Thank you.
Is that not money?
Is there any chance that 9-month time period for the feasibility study could be inaccurate on time to conduct it?
Could be.
There's a built-in disaster right there.
But the
Why do you call it a disaster?
Well, if that's part of the deal to complete that feasibility study in a time frame, and it's not happening, then it's dead in the water before you've even really gotten it, so to speak.
No, they're going to do a feasibility study.
There's
I don't know how long it's gonna-
there's not any factors that are at play that could jeopardize that you're not aware of. That's sort of like the hidden.
Well, it's not a poison pill issue at all. It's what's the process in the front end? If that takes,
Government agencies do not move fast, and 9 months is not a lot of time to conduct all of the different steps that you talked about. So
that's right. That's right. But the process will be public input on feasibility. That's gonna take weeks or months, we don't know. And then they'll issue some consulting contracts, and the target will be a 9-month period. And then there'll be a public hearing after that, public hearings after that, public discussions. So we can't control the process.
Public
We just know-
discussions don't have to happen within 9 months after discussion.
It's, no, we can't enforce that. That was a targeted 9 months, that was the
They-
expectation.
They seem to feel quite confident. They're not saying that there's any issues there.
What is the water rate for Marina compared to?
What is the question?
What are the water costs in Marina, publicly owned, compared to Cal-Am?
Well, it's much less, I don't know what it is.
About half.
About half?
About half as much. And Cal-Am has no expenses, really, that Marina Coast doesn't have. They just charge us twice as much.
That's not true.
Let me add a little piece of information to people who live in Seaside. These are Seaside residents only, who get water from the Seaside Muni water system, municipal water system. You do not get Cal-Am water. Also, the same people, I mean, the same type of people who live in Seaside Highlands and North, North community, you do not get Cal-Am water. But you can vote on measures. You can vote, but you don't get their water. So just to clarify, those individuals who live in the little section that's served by Seaside Muni and served by Marina Coast Water, north of Seaside and so on, those individuals do not get served by Cal-Am. They can vote on the Measure J though. You can vote because it's a voter issue. It's not a water customer issue. It's a voter.
Is there anybody here that doesn't get a Cal-Am bill that lives in Seaside?
There's a section of Seaside.
Seaside Highlands?
All I want to tell you is,
Proud of it.
if you're living in one of those two,
It's on the ballot. We can
Which
vote
more
for
to
it.
say
It's
it?
on the ballot.
yes,
Very
you can. But all I'm trying to say is,
No, we have seen water.
those residents in those two areas will not face any expense related to everything going forward on purchasing Cal-Am. You will not have litigation costs. You will not have acquisition costs. Your property tax aren't affected. It's a vote for your community, but your bills are not affected because the payment of the system for buying Cal-Am will be through the water bills. Will be through Cal-Am water bills. So it's Cal-Am customers that are ultimately going to have to face the feasibility analysis and the conclusions from it.
And by the way, none of this has anything to do with property taxes. Cal-Am floated that a while back. No property taxes involved in this. This is paid for on your water bill.
Yeah, one of their flyers said police and fire and parks are affected. Not true.
Is there an estimate on what the feasibility study would cost?
Maybe $500,000.
600 million, 9,600.
Billion.
You can use these numbers. You just 500 to 600,000. Yes.
I have a couple of questions. It seems like Cal-Am is getting, and its supporters are getting increasingly desperate. And I'm wondering if that's because should they win and Measure J be defeated, that they go ahead with the desal plant and all of a sudden there's more water for additional hookups. Is that part of their agenda? And my second question is if Measure J passes and the feasibility starts, are they going to look at the alternative to a desal plant? Since it's not a Cal-Am project anymore, there are alternatives like expanding Pure Water Monterey at probably lower cost. So if you're talking feasibility, it's not just can you afford to pay off a bond with that $19 million, but also going forward, is it really worth doing a desal plant in the first place if you've got cheaper water available? Well, those are my two questions.
Those would all be decided, if the water management district becomes a new owner. This vote is really just about ownership. It's not about water supply, although we know a lot about the water supply situation. And I would imagine that the water district would agree that less expensive water would be more desirable. But we don't really know what's going to happen with that desal plant because we essentially would have to buy whatever stage they're at. It would be part of the buyout. But then, you know, if they've got still just one test well, then so what? I mean, they'd probably not go forward with it. That makes it messy to a certain degree, but, you know, we need to just keep going and see what happens. I mean, we have to buy what they own.
Here's what you can take, here's what you can take to the bank, just like Cal-Am takes to the bank. If this vote fails, Cal-Am has a free run for the next 10 or 15 or 20 years. Because we're not gonna do this again. And that's why we keep saying, public water now or never. If this vote doesn't go through, there is no organization out there are no passionate people out there like some of us who would be willing to take this on another time. And spend 4 years doing it because you only get the bites of the apple when it comes around.
Yeah.
So that's why we're saying
Public water now or never, guys. That's it.
And these are free t-shirts, by the way. Please take one. They're free. They're free.
Yes, only if you're gonna wear it.
Okay, you had a second question.
I don't know, it's almost the same question as before, but it's just a little bit different. Okay, the question I asked before is, do we lose any benefit by going public versus keeping Cal-Am? And the answer I get is no, we don't lose any benefit. The costs will be the same, so we're not going to be losing any benefit. So anyhow, the second question is, because there's a lot of things that I get, feelings where they say the agency cannot manage well, or they don't know what they're doing, yes. Cal-Am knows a lot of water stuff. So anyhow, so my question to you is, can you envision any current or future challenge that the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District Agency will not be able to handle, but Cal-Am can?
If you compare their track records, it looks like the water management district's better at handling everything.
No, the only thing I can imagine, is, the way the system works now, Cal-Am has a grease track to the PUC, and the PUC is their Dutch uncle. So they take care of each other. So to the extent that Cal-Am has a decision-making mechanism that serves their purposes, that's a slick system, and it works for them. It doesn't work for the community, but it works for them.
But for us,
Now let's just switch over and say it's public ownership.
Right.
And it goes back to what Melody was saying about Felton and others. You know, democracy isn't necessarily slick and smooth. So there could be much more community dialogue about what the rates are going to be and what the structure is going to be and so on. So it may be local. It will be local, but it may look messy.
But we don't lose.
But it's our system.
But we don't lose any expertise or any ability that Cal-Am has
There's
now.
one thing they're losing. I don't know how many, maybe 10 corporate lawyers. They're losing a lot of legal team because, believe me, they have too much money and too many lawyers. So yeah, we would not have the kind of legal system that they have.
No, but I'm talking about the ability to produce and deliver the water.
No, it's not a rocket science to do water. Every community has a water system. Every community has professionals in it. People change jobs all the time.
We keep most of the staff, that's what she's asking. We keep most of the
I want to
staff.
make sure that people are aware that we're not losing anything. No expertise, no the ability to produce the water.
Now are going to run Cal-Am after JJJ passes, after the buyout. It's the same employees. But without the CEOs and the corporate lawyers and the 10 vice presidents, don't need all those guys. Go ahead, sister.
I just wanted to make the point that in addition to all of these questions, there's a huge philosophical issue here that has to do with water. Water is a human right and a human need that we cannot live without. And if we have someone for profit running it, they have control of something we need for life. We need to own our own water worldwide. Worldwide, water companies are buying up water systems right and left to the regret of every community that does it. And we need to own our water, whatever the responsibility for that turns into, whether it's hard or easy. That's the issue here. And it's a very deep issue globally. Because we have polluted our rivers, we've polluted our water, and it's time to take it back and use it well. That's my
citizens act. Actually, the trend is toward remunicipalization. It's not toward private ownership. Paris, Buenos Aires, all over the world, they've seen the same thing. Private water gives you expensive water and not well-maintained systems. So all these major cities around the world have said, no more, we're going to have public ownership. Just one more, because you.
No, I just want
Yeah.
to say the same thing that she said, but just with one little short sentence. He who owns, who has control of the water, has control of the livelihood of the whole population that uses that water.
Absolutely.
That's right. Good, so that's all I wanted to say.
Alan, would you like to come
We
up
want to
and
have
say
the
a few words,
control
please?
of our livelihood. Thank you, thank you, did a wonderful job.
I was just gonna say one thing. I'm a realist, and I've been involved in municipal government and public agencies. And the one thing, there's always a lot of passion about change. And if Measure J passes, that would be wonderful, but the populace also needs to have patience with change. We're in a instant gratification society right now where people want to know instantaneously, day 2, after the measure passes, what's going to happen and how it's going to benefit them. If people in this room are passionate about what this is all about, you need to also communicate to other people who are asking questions that change is difficult. Change has ups, change has downs, and for people to be respectfully, calmly, patient in the process and asking questions, but being realistic about it. That's why I asked about that sort of. To have expectations that something new, a new way of managing water in the peninsula is going to be successful day 1 is setting yourselves up for a default. So to be patient and supportive as there's rocky steps in the road, and to be supportive of the people like yourselves that are passionate about bringing about change. Not having expectations that it's going to happen day 2. I think that's not a wise way.
Thank you for that.
Very good.
Yeah, very, very nice.
I wrote down some notes here, and I wrote down, privately owned water companies usually charge 59% more than the publicly owned ones. And you showed that on the graphs. Okay. Also, after privatization, water rates increased about 3 times the rate of inflation, which has happened the last 2 years, 68%, and an increase of about 18% every other year. We've all seen that in our bills. And those are things that I think need to be addressed also. That we don't have an in-state, we don't have transparency, we don't have public input. I mean, once it's private, they don't listen to us, but they will listen to the shareholders. But publicly owned, I guarantee you, Jeannie Burns listens to our voices, and whoever else is on board. I guarantee you that they're there and they're going to hear us, and they're in our neighborhoods. They know what's going on. So.
Yeah, I think they'll listen.
I want to thank you all for coming. I thought I'd probably have more Seaside residents here, but I forgot. We got 3 systems. We got the KLM system, we got Seaside Muni, and we got Fort Ord out there. And that's the difference. And, they can vote, but they're really not interested, public.
Right.
Public. That's why I tried to get George, and I want to thank him for setting this up for us to come out here and tell us a little bit about what Measure J is. So I appreciate you all coming. I wish there was more Seaside members out here. Lisa Sonia.
Sonia?
In
another week, you're going to have it, Alvin.
I'm going to call you Lisa.
Sonny, that's fine. Yep,
Mayor
Lisa's good.
Lisa, she's here, and Councilman Member Campbell was here, but he stepped out. But I want to thank you all for being here, because it's important. This city right here, don't know it carries a lot of weight. It carries a lot of weight. Now I try to tell them they carry a lot of weight. And when I don't see them engaged, I think I need you to go out there and tell folks to vote extra if they can, so we can get this moving forward. Don't break the law. Don't break the law. But I've been engaged in this a long time, since we did Measure O. Measure O.
Measure W.
Was Measure W?
No 5.
Well, I've been engaged in this, and I know how important public water is. I know how important of earning a desal plan is, publicly. You know, Monterey Pure Water is a good idea when the two public agencies is working together. It's no profit. All that profit, it goes back into the system. And that's hard for people to understand. Seaside Muni, all their profit goes back into their system to repair. So that's one big thing that I'm trying to get, and I hope that we all get out and vote. I'm worried about the vote. So we all get out to vote, this will pass. If we don't vote, it won't pass, and what'd you say, now or never? Now or never. I don't think George's gonna be around for another one. Not taking that, it goes. But all I'm saying is, I don't think you're gonna have the people to do what George and this team have done. I don't think so. Because 4 years ago, didn't nobody want to do this. It took 6 years to get that desal decision. 4 years ago, when I ran for council again, oh, wait a minute, don't support it. We got the desal project coming. It's coming. It took them 6 years to get that decision that you got last September. So please get out there and vote. Hey, there was a vote. Tell people in the Seaside to vote. Take a t-shirt. Take a t-shirt.
Guys, what we really need you to do, if you can, we need people to call voters. Because Cal is out there calling voters all the time, telling them all kinds of nonsense. And if you can do that, sign on that, sign a volunteer form. If you can call a few voters for a few hours,